Be the Talk, episode 328, featuring David Murray. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with David Murray. David, are you ready to talk?
I am. Thank you very much for having me on your show today.
David Murray is an experienced speaker and public speaking communication coach. David has worked with hundreds of people to help them grow confidence and in their communication skills. In 2018, David achieved a long-standing ambition, getting accepted and delivering his TEDx talk. Yes. David Murray, welcome to the talk.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. Really excited to be on your show.
Your talk is called Embracing Uncertainty. And you mentioned in your talk that fear and uncertainty are always going to be a part of your life and our life as well. And until we really lean into it and take action and take the first step, we're never going to know what's going to happen. And really, action is the key to embracing uncertainty and overcoming the paralysis of uncertainty. So, David, please take us behind the talk.
Well, it's the talk kind of started many years ago because I share, two stories from my life. Something when I was a child, something more recent, but in a way, the journey for that talk probably specifically started 6 years ago because I found myself at a public speaking storytelling event, something I'd never done before, something that absolutely petrified me. And I was given a gentle nudge by a friend just to share a short speech. It was a simple question, and I froze. I was petrified. My head was full of, they're going to think what I'm saying is rubbish. I'm going to, collapse in a heap on the floor. And all these things was running through my head. And it was at that point I realized that I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I set on my own path to develop my public speaking and communication skills. And then 6 years later, I found myself on the TEDx stage, in a way, in part talking about that experience, but primarily realizing that, in life, we'll be faced with a number of different challenges, different maybe paths or directions that we need to take. And they can be quite scary, some of these things, but you realize is that by taking that little step forward into the unknown, like I did that first day when I was asked to deliver a very short presentation, that, it's actually going to be okay. And by doing that, you actually grow in confidence that you can take on the next challenge and the next challenge. And essentially, the talk was about me being a little boy, being frightened to ask a girl out to the school disco. And, all those thoughts and fears went in my head that she was going to say no, she wasn't going to like me, my friends are going to laugh at me. And I told a story about when, later in life, a relationship came to an end and I came with a big decision about what I wanted to do. And I realized that what I needed to do was, a change of focus, change of career. But that was quite scary too. And in a way, those kind of two stories kind of embraced my kind of feeling that, life does present itself with challenges, but you are stronger and more courageous than you realize.
Well, that's amazing. So, what is your advice for other people that have, they're just in a spot right now? At the time of this recording, we're right in the middle of the holiday seasons. This is a key time for a lot of people who are a little disconnected, which are more and more of us. What can they do to really turn this time of year around and really take action and overcome some of the uncertainty that they're dealing with?
And I guess that's probably the main thing to do is actually to notice what that uncertainty is. I mean, what is it that is kind of driving that? Is it a decision that you need to make? Is it maybe perhaps it's contacting relatives or friends that you haven't been in touch with for a while, and kind of just sort of taking a moment to think about, well, actually, what is actually really preventing me from taking that step or reaching out to that person? And know that sometimes we can build up in our heads kind of a lot of thoughts about how things might be, how they might turn out. And sometimes the thoughts that we present ourselves can be far worse than the reality of a situation. So just think about what that thing is. And I would suggest, if it feels right to, take action, make a small step forward to reaching out to that person, or to perhaps talk to a friend about an important decision and get their view on that.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So, what are some of the things that that you found? I mean, how did you come across this idea we're spreading? How did you craft it? What was the process like for you?
Yeah, I guess if I sort of looked at myself, I was standing on the TEDx stage, and I had to, put myself forward to audition for that. And what I did was, so when I came from a place of quite sort of very nervous, very scared at public speaking, talking to people who set out in terms of delivering presentations, a lot of people tend to feel quite nervous and build up this kind of scary picture of how things are going to be. And it was almost 3 years after I sort of started on my kind of journey, I decided that I wanted to help others who were kind of a bit scared, who were where I was those 3 years ago. So I set up small little events to encourage people to come along, share their ideas, share their stories, but primarily based around a place that it was going to be all right. It was very supportive, and people were encouraged to kind of, take a little step into the unknown, share a little bit about themselves, and try to, talk and share stories in a group setting. And I realized that over the kind of 2 or 3 years I was doing that I wanted to do more with myself to kind of, in a way, sort of add greater credibility to me as being a coach in terms of the communication skills and public speaking. So, a step for me, a reach for me, was applying for the TEDx talk, because even as, so we say, experienced as I still had to go through that process of, there was other people, there was going to, no doubt be a number of people applying to talk. And you got to kind of make yourself vulnerable and put yourself in a position where they may not like what I've got to say. They may think that my idea that I'm sharing about uncertainty is, not interesting, not relevant for that audience. But there again, that's where those little niggles of doubt come in. Well, it's not worth me applying for it because I'm not going to get through anyway. Or, for example, if you're contacting a friend at Christmas that you've not spoken to for a while, they're probably not going to be interested. But you don't know until you take that step. And, I'm glad that I did. And it's been a sort of great experience for me, and something that I'm, really pleased that I did. And as I say, in terms of the idea of uncertainty, it's about kind of having the courage to realize you don't try and push fear away or block it out. Realize that in some situations they might be a bit scary, but, showing a little bit of courage means that you can definitely, get to the other side and see the positivity that you can have.
Well, absolutely. We've been enjoying this conversation with David Murray. His talk is called Embracing Uncertainty, and we are going to hear more from David Murray in just a moment in the Blitz Round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And we are back with the Blitz Round with David Murray. I'm going to ask David a series of either or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent talk. David, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yes, great. Thank you.
All right. So I think I know the answer to this based on what you said, but were you invited to speak or did you apply?
I had to apply, yeah. So I applied, it was early this year. I had to apply with a number of other people, and I went for an audition and thankfully got accepted. But yes, had to apply.
Yeah. Well, what's your advice for other people to get accepted?
I think the key thing is that I like to share stories. And I think that even whether you're delivering presentations or my talk was specifically around a couple of stories, is add a story into your talk. Definitely people like that. But more importantly is that if you are going for an audition, you have to kind of tailor your talk for the audition. And it might be slightly different to the talk you deliver on the actual TEDx stage. So think about the audition might be at fewer people. It might be in a smaller room. So it's just think about actually tailoring your talk, maybe, refining it to some degree to connect with a smaller amount of people than you would do on a larger stage. So just think about your audition will be different to the full TEDx talk. So maybe think about refining it to some degree to match a smaller audience before you deliver it on the bigger stage.
Well, David, are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I like to memorize my talk, but to the point where I'm able to incorporate what's going on inside the room within my talk itself. So I like to kind of do a bit of both, memorize and blend in what's happening in my surroundings.
What's a tip, tool, or technique that helped you prepare?
I'd say give yourself plenty of time plenty of time in advance of your talk. Be clear about your message and have the flexibility to, when you're inside the room itself, see what's going on and incorporate different aspects of what's happening in the room at the time. So, for example, if you're speaker number 2, 3, and 4, maybe there's something connected with another speech which you can bring into your speech as you deliver that.
David, were you a opener, were you a closer, or were you in between?
I was in between. So I was in about number 4 or 5, I think I was.
What's your advice to the other in-betweeners?
I would say be present in the room. You know your speech. You've practiced your speech beforehand. Be present in the room. Listen to the other speeches and try to draw on some of those influences and incorporate them into your talk, because it means that people will connect with your talk even stronger by doing that.
This is the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
I think that I wanted my talk to be 3 stories, and in terms of painful, with a bit that was most challenging but in terms of the time allowed, I had to kind of cut it down to 2. And I thought, well, it's not going to be the same talk, but actually it was probably even more effective. So the advice there is be open to kind of leave stuff out if you need to.
Yeah, actually, it was very effective, and it's on the shorter side of talks. It was about, if I'm not mistaken, about 12 minutes, something like that.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. So I was preparing for 18 minutes, and the organizer said we need yours to be 12. So I had to be quite ruthless with it. It's hard to begin with because these are your stories, but actually you realize that actually it probably even has even greater effect, I think, if you can actually be confident enough to cut some things out, definitely.
Talk Universe, David's absolutely right, because as you may know, I used to volunteer behind the scenes in an actual organization, and I would track month to month all the views of all the talks that we had promoted, and there were hundreds of talks at that point. There's even more now, and I would track them, and invariably, David's right, the shorter talks got more views overall, and it makes a lot of sense because it's less daunting to watch, and frankly, as I've been helping more and more people get accepted and then give their talks, it's very interesting because I noticed some people they might get all 18 minutes. And they may only have 10 minutes worth of real content. So, I mean, it's like the question that we have to ask yourself. And then what David's saying right now is, he had 18 minutes of real good stories, but then he shortened it. He cut out a story, and it's a much more condensed, much more packed talk to be able to do that. It's so much more impactful when you condense it down to as short as possible, rather than having things and leaving people as we now have a very, very short attention span, less than a goldfish. Shorter is better. So congratulations, David. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that what you've got to get away from is being sort of too precious about the content. And I think that with all our talks, Nathan, you'll know your experience is that, there's a number of different ways in which you can say things, and, invariably less is more. So, if you've got, always meet the time, never run over time, and be willing to kind of say, right, it's not sacrificing content, it's just making your speech even more impactful, I think.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, consideration to all the other speakers, consideration to the team, the organizer, the sponsors, everybody that puts all these things together. And then, when you hit the time that they give you and don't take extra time, it just makes you look even more of a rock star for the next place that you might want to give. And maybe it's a paid keynote, maybe it's a paid workshop or presentation. You're really demonstrating a lot of things in your TEDx talk. So congratulations on that, David. Yeah. And, we've been enjoying this Blitz round with David Murray. His talk is called Embracing Uncertainty, and his website is David Allen with one L, davidallenmurray.com. BeTheTalk.com. You can go to both links on our website at BeTheTalk.com. Watch Embracing Uncertainty. We'll have a link to that, and we will also have a link to David's website, David Allen Murray, Allen with one L, davidallenmurray.com. And we will be right back with David Murray for the final word of advice in just a moment. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back with the final word of advice with David Murray. What is it?
I would say if you're thinking about delivering a speech or presentations, you never tried it before, I would say get out there and do it. It's never going to be as bad as you think it will be.
Well, David Murray, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
You're absolutely welcome. It's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.